Most men believe the secret to talking to women is finding the perfect opening line. They spend hours searching for clever phrases, memorizing scripted conversations, or worrying about making a flawless first impression. But the truth is far simpler and far more powerful. The first few seconds of a conversation are not decided by the words you choose. They are decided by the emotional state you bring into the conversation. Before a woman fully processes what you say, she notices whether you seem relaxed or anxious, genuine or rehearsed, respectful or desperate. This is why the first rule of learning how to talk to women is to stop trying to impress and start communicating naturally. The goal is not to perform. The goal is to create a comfortable conversation where both people feel at ease. One of the biggest mistakes men make is approaching a conversation as if it is an interview they must pass. The moment they see a woman they want to talk to, they begin putting pressure on themselves. They think, I have to say something amazing, or I can't make any mistakes. That pressure changes everything. Instead of paying attention to the person in front of them, they become trapped inside their own thoughts. They start overthinking every sentence before they speak. They become afraid of silence. They rush their words or speak too much because they believe constant talking makes them appear more interesting. In reality, this nervous energy often makes the conversation feel forced. Women usually respond more positively to someone who appears calm and present than to someone who is trying too hard to create a perfect moment. The best way to begin a conversation is with honesty and simplicity. You do not need a complicated strategy or a rehearsed script. A polite greeting, a natural observation about the environment, or a genuine question related to situation is often enough to start talking. If you are at a bookstore, asking about a book is more authentic than using a memorized pickup line. If you meet someone at an event, commenting on the event creates a natural opening. Real conversations grow from shared moments, not from artificial performances. Women can often sense when someone is speaking from genuine curiosity versus trying to impress with rehearsed lines. Authenticity creates comfort, while acting creates distance. Another important part of learning how to talk to women is understanding that confidence is not loudness. Some men believe they must dominate the conversation, speak constantly, or show off their achievements to appear attractive. But confidence rarely needs to announce itself. A calm tone of voice, steady eye contact, and relaxed body language often communicate more confidence than endless talking. Speaking slowly instead of rushing your words shows that you are comfortable with yourself. There is no need to fill every second with conversation. A brief pause is not a failure. In fact, being comfortable with small moments of silence often makes the interaction feel more natural because it removes the pressure to perform. Listening is just as important as speaking. Many men focus so much on what they will say next that they stop listening to what the other person is actually saying. They ask a question only because they are waiting for their turn to talk again. Meaningful conversations do not work this way. When you genuinely listen, your next question becomes natural because it grows from the other person's answer. Instead of preparing your next sentence while she is speaking, pay attention to her words, her tone, and what she seems interested in discussing. People enjoy conversations when they feel heard, and women are no different. Genuine curiosity creates stronger connections than trying to sound impressive. Body language also shapes the conversation before many words are exchanged. Standing with relaxed posture, maintaining respectful eye contact, and smiling naturally create a sense of ease. Nervous habits like constantly checking your phone, crossing your arms tightly, avoiding eye contact, or looking around the room can unintentionally communicate discomfort or disinterest. Good body language is not about pretending to be confident. It is about allowing your posture to reflect the calmness you are trying to develop inside. The more relaxed your body becomes, the more naturally your conversation begins to flow. Many men also make the mistake of trying to impress by talking only about themselves. They describe their success, their achievements, or their experiences without creating space for the other person to participate. A good conversation feels balanced. Share your thoughts honestly, but also invite hers. Ask open-ended questions that encourage real discussion instead of questions that can only be answered with yes or no. For example, asking, "What do you enjoy doing outside of work?" usually creates a richer conversation than asking, Do you like your job? Thoughtful questions show interest without making the conversation feel like an interrogation. Another important lesson is to stop fearing rejection so much that it changes the way you communicate. Not every conversation will lead to friendship, attraction, or a deeper connection, and that is completely normal. Chemistry cannot be forced. If a conversation ends politely without further interest, it does not mean you failed. It simply means the connection was not there. The purpose of talking to women is not to convince every person to like you. It is to communicate honestly, respectfully, and confidently while allowing genuine compatibility to reveal itself naturally. Above all, remember that every woman is an individual with her own experiences, interests, and personality. There is no universal script that works with everyone, and there should not be. The strongest conversations come from respect, authenticity, and curiosity, rather than techniques designed to manipulate emotions. When you stop treating conversations like performances and start treating them as opportunities to know another person, you become more relaxed, more confident, and far more enjoyable to talk to. And once you stop trying to impress and begin learning how to truly listen, you will discover that the best conversations are built not by speaking more, but by creating a space where both people genuinely want to keep talking. The moment you stop trying to impress a woman, you become capable of doing something far more important. You begin listening. Most men believe talking is the key to a great conversation. They think the person who speaks the most is the one who leaves the strongest impression. That belief leads them into one of the biggest mistakes they can make. They begin talking endlessly about themselves, telling story after story, trying to sound interesting, funny, successful, or unique. But while they are focused on what they want to say next, they completely miss the person standing in front of them. Learning how to talk to women is not about becoming a better speaker alone. It is about becoming a better listener. A meaningful conversation begins when a woman feels that she is being genuinely heard, not simply waiting for her turn while you perform. One of the easiest ways to make a conversation feel natural is to replace the desire to impress with genuine curiosity. Instead of thinking, "How can I make her like me?" ask yourself, "Who is this person?" That small change completely transforms the conversation. You stop searching for perfect responses and start paying attention to what she is actually saying. Every answer she gives becomes an opportunity to ask another thoughtful question instead of changing the subject back to yourself. People naturally enjoy conversations with those who show sincere interest in them, and women are no different. Curiosity creates comfort because it tells the other person that you value them as an individual rather than as someone when you are trying to impress. Many men ask questions, but they ask them mechanically. They move from one topic to another without listening carefully to the answers. For example, they ask what she does for work, hear the response, and immediately jump to another question without exploring what she shared. Real conversations do not feel like interviews. If she mentions that she enjoys photography, traveling, reading, or learning a new skill, that is an invitation to continue naturally. Ask what inspired that interest. Ask what she enjoys most about it. Ask about an experience connected to it. When your questions grow naturally from her answers, the conversation feels relaxed instead of forced. Listening also means paying attention to emotions, not just words. Sometimes a person speaks enthusiastically about one subject and briefly answers another. That difference matters. If she lights up while talking about a recent trip or a personal goal, allow the conversation to stay there instead of immediately changing direction. People feel more connected when someone notices what genuinely excites them. The purpose is not to memorize questions, but to notice where the conversation naturally wants to go. Another common mistake is interrupting. Many men become excited when they hear something they can relate to, so they immediately begin sharing their own experience before she has finished speaking. While the intention may be good, constant interruption makes the conversation feel one-sided. Patience is one of the strongest communication skills. Let her complete her thoughts. Give a brief pause before responding. That small moment communicates respect and confidence because it shows you are listening to understand rather than listening only to reply. Learning how to talk to women also means becoming comfortable with silence. Many people become nervous when there is a short pause in the conversation. They immediately begin talking about anything just to fill the empty space, but silence is not always awkward. Sometimes it gives both people a chance to think, smile, or naturally move toward the next topic. Confident communicators do not panic because of a few quiet seconds. They remain relaxed, maintain comfortable eye contact, and allow the conversation to continue at its own pace. Often, those brief pauses make the interaction feel more genuine instead of rushed. Your responses should also show that you are actually listening. Instead of giving short replies like "that's nice" or "cool," respond to something specific she mentioned. If she tells you she enjoys hiking because it helps her disconnect from daily stress, you might ask what her favorite place has been or what she enjoys most about being outdoors. These responses demonstrate attention and encourage deeper conversation. They also prevent the discussion from becoming repetitive or superficial. It is equally important to avoid turning every topic back toward yourself. Sharing your own experiences is part of a balanced conversation, but there should be a natural rhythm. If she talks about learning a new language, you can briefly mention your own interest or experience before inviting her back into the conversation. The goal is to create an exchange, not a competition over who has the better story. Women often appreciate conversations where they feel included rather than overshadowed. Body language plays an important role while listening. Face the person you are speaking with, maintain respectful eye contact, nod naturally when appropriate, and avoid distractions such as constantly checking your phone or scanning the room. These simple actions communicate that you are fully present. Being present is one of the most attractive qualities in any conversation because it makes the other person feel valued. Genuine attention is becoming increasingly rare, and people notice when someone offers it sincerely. Remember that every woman has her own personality, interests, and communication style. Some enjoy long conversations immediately, while others take more time to open up. Do not rush the process or assume that every interaction should unfold in exactly the same way. Good communication is flexible. It adapts to the individual rather than relying on memorized scripts. The more you listen, the easier it becomes to understand how the conversation should naturally develop. The greatest conversations are not remembered because one person spoke brilliantly. They are remembered because both people felt understood. When a woman feels comfortable expressing herself without being interrupted, judged, or rushed, trust begins to grow naturally. That trust cannot be created through clever lines or rehearsed techniques. It is built through attention, patience, and genuine curiosity. And once you learn to listen with real interest instead of speaking for approval, you will discover that the strongest conversations are not driven by constant words, but by meaningful communication that allows a genuine connection to grow naturally. Once you learn how to listen with genuine curiosity, the next step is learning how to speak with purpose. One of the biggest mistakes men make when talking to women is believing that they must constantly keep the conversation alive. They think every second of silence is a sign that something is going wrong, so they begin talking without direction. They tell unnecessary stories, explain every detail, interrupt natural pauses, and sometimes even contradict themselves because they are speaking faster than they are thinking. But meaningful conversations are not measured by the number of words exchanged. They are measured by the quality of those words. Learning how to talk to women means understanding that thoughtful communication creates a stronger impression than endless talking. Many men fall into the habit of over-explaining themselves. If they mention a hobby, they immediately begin justifying why they enjoy it. If they express an opinion, they spend several minutes trying to convince the other person that their opinion is correct. This often happens because they fear being misunderstood or judged. However, confidence is reflected in the ability to express yourself clearly without feeling the need to defend every thought. When you speak honestly and simply, your communication feels more natural. Women often respond more positively to someone who shares their thoughts calmly than to someone who constantly seeks agreement or approval. Purposeful communication also means choosing topics that encourage genuine interaction instead of trying to impress. Instead of listing your achievements or turning every conversation into a discussion about yourself, focus on subjects that invite both people to participate. Shared experiences, travel, hobbies, books, music, goals, memorable life moments, or interesting observations about the present situation often create more engaging conversations than trying to prove how successful or knowledgeable you are. A conversation should feel like two people exploring ideas together, not one person delivering a presentation. One skill that separates confident communicators from nervous ones is knowing how to ask open-ended questions. Questions that can be answered with only yes or no usually end the conversation quickly. Instead, ask questions that invite stories, opinions, and experiences. For example, instead of asking, "Did you enjoy your trip?" you could ask, "What was the most memorable part of your trip?" Instead of asking, "Do you like your job?" you might ask, "What do you enjoy most about what you do?" These questions naturally encourage longer, more interesting conversations because they invite the other person to share something meaningful rather than giving a short response. At the same time, avoid turning the conversation into an interview. Asking question after question without sharing anything about yourself can make the interaction feel unnatural. A balanced conversation has a rhythm. You ask a thoughtful question, listen carefully, respond to what she shares, and then naturally contribute your own perspective when it fits. This exchange creates comfort because both people are participating equally. Learning how to talk to women is not about asking the most questions. It is about creating a conversation where both people feel involved. Tone of voice is another important part of purposeful communication. Many men speak too quickly because they are nervous, while others lower their voice so much that they become difficult to hear. A calm, clear, and steady tone communicates confidence far more effectively than speaking loudly or trying to sound impressive. Slowing down your speech gives you time to think before responding, and it also allows the other person to absorb what you are saying. Rushing through conversations often creates confusion, while a relaxed pace makes the interaction feel comfortable and natural. Humor can also play a valuable role, but only when it develops naturally. Many men believe they must constantly make jokes to keep a woman interested. As a result, they force humor into every topic, even when it does not fit the moment. Genuine humor comes from paying attention to the conversation, noticing shared experiences, or laughing together about something unexpected. It should never become a performance designed to earn approval. A simple smile, lighthearted observation, or shared laugh often creates a stronger connection than trying to be the funniest person in the room. Another important lesson is learning to express your opinions honestly. Some men agree with everything a woman says because they fear disagreement will ruin the conversation. While respect is essential, pretending to share every opinion often feels inauthentic. Healthy conversations include different perspectives, provided they are shared politely and respectfully. If you disagree on a movie, a hobby, or an idea, express your view calmly without trying to win an argument. Respectful differences often make conversations more interesting because they reveal personality instead of rehearsed agreement. It is equally important to notice when the conversation is flowing well and when it is time to change topics. If one subject naturally reaches its conclusion, do not force it to continue. Transition smoothly by connecting it to something related or by asking about another interest she has mentioned. Flexible communication keeps the interaction fresh and prevents it from becoming repetitive. The more present you are, the easier these transitions become because you are responding to the conversation instead of following a memorized script. Above all, remember that the purpose of talking to women is not to create a perfect conversation. It is to create a genuine one. Perfection often feels artificial, while authenticity creates comfort. Every interaction is different because every person is different. Some conversations will be energetic, others quieter, and some may simply reveal that the connection is not there. That is completely normal. Success is not measured by saying everything perfectly. It is measured by communicating honestly, listening carefully, and allowing the conversation to develop naturally without unnecessary pressure. And once you learn to speak with purpose instead of speaking for approval, you begin to realize that the strongest conversations are built not on clever words, but on genuine communication that makes the other person feel comfortable, respected, and understood. The difference between an ordinary conversation and a memorable one is rarely found in clever words. It is found in emotional awareness. Many men believe that talking to women is simply about speaking confidently, asking the right questions, or having interesting stories to tell. While those things matter, they are only part of the picture. A conversation is never just about words. Every smile, every pause, every change in tone, and every expression communicates something. If you only pay attention to what is being said and ignore how it is being said, you miss half of the conversation. Learning how to talk to women means learning to understand emotions as carefully as you understand language. One of the biggest mistakes men make is treating every conversation exactly the same. They approach every woman with the same script, the same jokes, and the same sequence of questions, believing that if something worked once, it worked every time. But every person has a different personality, different experiences, and a different communication style. Some women enjoy energetic conversations filled with humor, while others appreciate calm, thoughtful discussions. Some naturally open up quickly, while others take more time before feeling comfortable. A confident communicator understands this and adapts naturally, instead of forcing every interaction into a predetermined pattern. The first skill in understanding emotions is paying attention instead of assuming. Before deciding where the conversation should go, observe how the other person is responding. Is she smiling naturally or giving short, polite answers? Does she seem relaxed or does she appear distracted? Is she asking questions in return, or are you carrying the entire conversation alone? These small signals tell you far more than memorized advice ever will. When you notice these emotional cues, you stop talking at someone and begin communicating with them. Eye contact is another important part of emotional communication. Respectful and natural eye contact shows confidence and attention. Looking away every few seconds because of nervousness can make you appear uncertain, while staring continuously can feel uncomfortable. The goal is balance. Make eye contact while speaking and listening, then allow natural breaks as the conversation flows. This creates comfort because it shows you are engaged without making the interaction feel intense or forced. Your tone of voice also shapes how your words are received. The exact same sentence can create two completely different impressions, depending on how it is spoken. A calm, warm, and relaxed tone communicates confidence and respect. Speaking too quickly often suggests nervousness, while speaking too loudly may feel overwhelming. Slow down enough that your words feel intentional. A measured pace allows both people to enjoy the conversation instead of feeling rushed. Women often remember how someone made them feel more than the exact words they used, and your tone plays a major role in creating that feeling. Empathy is equally important. Many men become so focused on saying the right thing that they forget to understand the other person's perspective. If she shares something meaningful about her work, family, or a personal experience, avoid immediately changing the subject or comparing it to your own story. Instead, acknowledge what she shared. If she talks about achieving a goal she worked hard for, recognize her effort. If she describes a challenge, show genuine interest before offering your own experience. This creates emotional connection because it shows that you value her thoughts rather than simply waiting for your turn to speak. Another common mistake is ignoring boundaries. Every conversation develops at its own pace, and not every topic needs to be discussed immediately. Asking deeply personal questions too early can make the interaction feel uncomfortable. Strong communicators understand that trust is built gradually. They begin with light, natural topics and allow the conversation to become deeper only if both people are comfortable. Respecting someone's pace is not only polite, it also demonstrates emotional intelligence and confidence. A man who feels secure in himself does not rush connection. He allows it to grow naturally. It is also important to recognize when the conversation is enjoyable for both people and when it may be time to end it. Many men believe they must keep talking for as long as possible, fearing that ending the conversation too soon means losing an opportunity. In reality, ending a conversation while both people are still engaged often leaves a stronger impression than forcing it to continue after the energy has faded. If the discussion has been positive, ending it naturally with appreciation and confidence creates space for future conversations instead of exhausting the moment. Emotional awareness also means accepting that not every interaction will develop into a deeper connection, and that is perfectly normal. Sometimes two people simply do not share the same interests, communication style, or chemistry. That does not mean either person has failed. Confident men do not take every outcome personally. They remain respectful, appreciate the conversation, and move forward without resentment or self-doubt. This mindset removes unnecessary pressure and allows future conversations to feel more relaxed and authentic. The most successful conversations are never built on manipulation or hidden techniques. They are built on presence. When you are fully engaged, listening carefully, observing naturally, and responding with sincerity, the conversation becomes effortless. You stop trying to control every moment and start enjoying the experience of getting to know another person. That enjoyment is often what creates the strongest connection because authenticity is difficult to imitate and easy to recognize. Learning how to talk to women is ultimately about understanding that communication is a shared experience, not a performance. Your words matter, but so do your patience, your respect, your emotional awareness, and your ability to make the other person feel comfortable enough to be themselves. When you combine confident communication with genuine empathy, conversations stop feeling like challenges and begin feeling like opportunities to build real human connection. And once you learn to understand emotions, instead of simply exchanging words, you become ready to discover that lasting attraction is built not through performance, but through the strength of your character and the consistency of your actions. The moment you learn how to communicate with confidence and emotional awareness, you begin to realize something that many men discover too late. A great conversation does not create attraction by itself. Conversation simply reveals who you are. If your character is weak, no amount of clever words can hide it forever. If your confidence depends on pretending to be someone else, that confidence will eventually disappear. This is why learning how to talk to women is not about becoming a better actor. It is about allowing your real character to be reflected through the way you speak, listen, and behave. Women may notice confidence in the first few minutes, but over time they notice something much deeper: consistency. They pay attention to whether your actions match your words, whether your behavior remains respectful, and whether the person they met in the beginning is the same person they continue to know. One of the biggest mistakes men make is trying to create an image instead of showing their real personality. They exaggerate their achievements, pretend to have interests they do not actually enjoy, or agree with everything a woman says simply because they think it will make them more attractive. At first, this may seem harmless, but every false impression creates pressure. The more you pretend, the harder it becomes to maintain that version of yourself. Eventually, the conversation begins to feel exhausting because you are no longer speaking naturally. You are protecting a performance. Real confidence does not require constant acting. It allows you to speak honestly without worrying that every opinion must be perfect. When talking to women, authenticity creates comfort. This does not mean sharing every detail about your life immediately or expressing every thought without consideration. Authenticity means allowing your real personality, values, and interests to appear naturally instead of replacing them with what you think someone else wants to hear. If you enjoy reading, speak about it with genuine enthusiasm. If you are passionate about your work, explain why it matters to you. If you disagree respectfully on a topic, express your opinion calmly instead of pretending to agree. Honest conversations are often more interesting than perfect agreement because they reveal individuality rather than imitation. Another important part of building attraction through character is showing respect in every interaction. Respect is communicated in simple ways. It is listening without interrupting. It is avoiding rude comments disguised as jokes. It is accepting different opinions without becoming defensive. It is recognizing personal boundaries and never trying to pressure someone into continuing a conversation they clearly do not wish to have. A respectful attitude creates emotional safety, and emotional safety is one of the strongest foundations of meaningful communication. A woman is far more likely to enjoy talking with someone who makes her feel comfortable than someone who spends the entire conversation trying to impress her. Confidence is also reflected in how you handle differences. Many men, they must always agree in order to keep the conversation positive. In reality, thoughtful disagreement can make a conversation more engaging when it is expressed respectfully. If you have different tastes in movies, travel, hobbies, or books, there is nothing wrong with saying so. The key is to express your perspective without trying to prove the other person wrong. Conversations become richer when two people exchange ideas with curiosity instead of treating every difference as a debate to be won. This shows maturity because it demonstrates that your confidence does not depend on constant agreement. Another quality women often notice is purpose. A man who has goals, interests, and responsibilities outside of dating usually speaks differently from someone whose entire attention is focused on gaining approval. He talks about his experiences with enthusiasm because those experiences genuinely matter to him. He asks questions because he enjoys learning about other people, not because he is following a script. His confidence comes from living a meaningful life rather than from trying to create one during a single conversation. This does not mean you must be extraordinarily successful to have interesting conversations. It simply means that having passions, ambitions, and personal growth gives you genuine experiences to share instead of relying on rehearsed stories. Humility is another part of strong character. Some men believe they must constantly highlight their achievements to appear attractive. They mention expensive possessions, professional success, or personal accomplishments whenever possible. While there is nothing wrong with being proud of your hard work, constantly talking about yourself often creates distance instead of connection. Genuine confidence allows your achievements to appear naturally within the conversation, instead of using them as proof of your value. People generally enjoy discovering someone's strengths over time rather than having them repeatedly announced. Reliability also influences how conversations develop. If you say you will call, send a message, or meet at a certain time, follow through. Small actions often communicate character more clearly than long conversations. Consistency builds trust because it shows that your words can be believed. A pleasant conversation may create interest, but dependable behavior creates respect. Respect is what allows attraction to grow beyond the first meeting. Most importantly, remember that attraction cannot be forced through techniques. Every woman has her own personality, preferences, and experiences. Your responsibility is not to convince every woman to like you. Your responsibility is to communicate honestly, respectfully, and confidently while allowing genuine compatibility to develop naturally. Some conversations will lead to lasting connections, while others will simply remain pleasant conversations. Accepting this reality removes unnecessary pressure and allows you to be fully present instead of constantly worrying about the outcome. The strongest conversations are built on character, because character never depends on memorized lines or temporary performances. It is reflected in your honesty, your respect, your consistency, and the calm confidence with which you treat others. When your communication grows from those qualities, talking to women becomes less about trying to create attraction and more about discovering whether a genuine connection already exists. And once your words begin to reflect your true character instead of a rehearsed image, you become ready to master the final lesson: how to stay confident and natural in every conversation, regardless of the outcome. After learning how to start conversations, how to listen, how to speak with purpose, how to understand emotions, and how to let your character speak louder than rehearsed words, there is one final lesson that brings everything together. It is the ability to remain natural regardless of the outcome. Many men believe confidence comes from knowing exactly what to say, but real confidence comes from knowing that your value does not depend on how a single conversation ends. The moment you stop treating every interaction as a test you must pass, talking to women becomes easier, more enjoyable, and far more authentic. The greatest conversation skill is not having the perfect words. It is being completely comfortable with yourself. One of the biggest reasons conversations become awkward is because men become too attached to the result before the conversation has even begun. Before saying the first word, they are already imagining a future relationship, wondering if she likes them, or worrying about making a mistake. This creates unnecessary pressure because instead of focusing on the present moment, they become obsessed with an outcome they cannot control. The conversation no longer feels like two people getting to know each other. It becomes an internal battle against fear and self-doubt. Learning how to talk to women requires letting go of that pressure. Your responsibility is not to control the outcome. Your responsibility is simply to communicate with honesty, confidence, and respect. Rejection is another subject many men misunderstand. They often believe that if a conversation does not go well, it means there is something wrong with them. But every meaningful connection depends on compatibility, and compatibility cannot be forced. Two people may be kind, confident, and interesting, yet still not share the same personalities, values, or interests. That is not failure. It is simply reality. The strongest communicators understand this. If a conversation ends naturally without developing into anything more, they accept it gracefully. They remain polite, wish the other person well, and continue living their life without allowing one interaction to damage their confidence. This mindset changes the entire way you communicate. When you stop fearing rejection, you stop overthinking every sentence. You stop trying to impress through exaggerated stories or forced humor. You stop pretending to be someone else because you no longer believe your worth depends on gaining approval from every person you meet. Instead, you become present. You enjoy the conversation for what it is, rather than constantly wondering where it might lead. Ironically, this relaxed attitude often makes conversations more enjoyable because the pressure disappears for both people. Confidence is also reflected in your ability to stay calm when conversations become imperfect. There may be moments where you lose your train of thought. There may be a short silence. You may misunderstand something she says or accidentally say something awkward. Many men panic during these moments because they believe one small mistake ruins everything. In reality, natural conversations include imperfection. Confident people do not pretend to be flawless. If something awkward happens, they smile, laugh naturally if appropriate, and continue the conversation without making the moment larger than it needs to be. Often, the ability to recover calmly leaves a better impression than trying to avoid mistakes altogether. Another important lesson is understanding when to end a conversation. Many men believe that if a conversation is going well, they should keep talking for as long as possible. But meaningful conversations do not need to last forever. If both people have enjoyed the interaction, ending it naturally while the energy is still positive often creates a stronger impression than continuing until the conversation becomes repetitive or forced. A simple statement such as "it was really nice talking with you," delivered with sincerity and confidence, shows maturity. It communicates that you appreciate the interaction without creating unnecessary pressure. The way you leave a conversation is just as important as the way you begin one. If you would like to continue getting to know her, ask respectfully and directly if she would be interested in talking again or exchanging contact information. If she agrees, wonderful. If she declines, accept her answer with grace and kindness. Never argue, pressure, or try to change her mind. Respecting another person's decision demonstrates confidence because it shows you understand that mutual interest cannot be negotiated. Genuine connection only grows when both people freely choose to continue it. Learning how to talk to women also means recognizing that every conversation teaches you something. Some interactions help you become more comfortable speaking with new people. Others teach you how to listen more carefully, ask better questions, or improve your communication. Instead of judging yourself after every conversation, become curious about what you learned from it. Growth comes from experience, not perfection. The more conversations you have with an open mind, the more naturally your confidence develops because it is based on real experience rather than imagined expectations. Remember that women are not looking for someone who never makes mistakes. They are talking to another human being, not expecting a flawless performance. They appreciate sincerity, confidence, respect, humor that comes naturally, and someone who is genuinely interested in getting to know them. Those qualities cannot be memorized from a script because they come from the way you see yourself. When you respect yourself, you stop seeking constant validation. When you are comfortable with yourself, you allow others to feel comfortable around you. In the end, learning how to talk to women is not about mastering secret techniques or memorizing perfect conversation starters. It is about becoming someone who communicates with authenticity, listens with genuine interest, speaks with purpose, respects boundaries, and remains confident regardless of the outcome. Once you understand these principles, conversations stop feeling like challenges to overcome and become opportunities to build real connections based on mutual respect and honest communication. And when you stop chasing the perfect conversation and simply become your most confident, respectful, and authentic self, you discover that the best connections are never forced. They grow naturally through genuine communication.